So for the lesson overview, we're going over basic terms, strength training part 1 and 2, and then different styles of training. So remember, just like last time, be sure to be active in the community. This is how you'll unlock more content and you'll progress through the program. And it is important because we have different things happening weekly and we want you to stay up to date. And then lastly, it has come to our attention that statistically speaking, more people are more likely to get their health and fitness goals if they're active in the community. And it's up to 80% that it shows that. Please follow us on social media. On Instagram, I go by Almost Dr. Faith, and my chiropractic practice is going to be Faith Family Chiropractic. And then also, please follow us on TikTok and Threads at Almost Dr. Faith again. Please share the course. Please help me share this to other people and make sure that we're getting true health and wellness to the world, or as many people as we can get to. Warning, this is the most important video in the entire course. Watch the entire video, don't skip, and please don't fast forward. Pro tip, watch it at 2 times speed, or if you're like me, watch it at 1.5. So now we're going to get into some basic terms. So a lot of this stuff you might already know. I might have talked about a little bit in the previous document or the previous course, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that, especially when we get to the actual workout plan. I don't want there to be any guesswork. So reps and sets. Reps are the amount of times that you'll do an exercise, and the sets is how many times you'll do that many reps. So if I tell you you have 5 reps 3 times, you have 5 reps for 3 sets. Periodization is something that we as coaches do to where like we'll do it instead of to where like over a period of time you have this many exercises, or you'll be doing this exercise for like maybe a month, maybe a week, maybe 2 months. But we're doing that to make sure that 1, you're adapting to get to whatever your goal is, or that 2, that we're making sure that your body is actually ready for the next thing. I talked a little bit about proprioception in the last one, where we were talking about how it's a great opportunity for you to walk barefoot after an exercise or after a workout, so that way your body can put itself into the right position. Tempo is one of those things that a lot of coaches are sleeping on. It depends on what your goal is, but a great way to get more muscle activation and more hypertrophy or more calorie burn without having to go up in weight is to change up the speed that you're working out at. So sometimes you'll see 3 different things. And let me see if I can do this right here. So you'll see 3 numbers. You'll have 1 right there. Then you'll have a dash. Then you have another number, another dash, and then a number. What this is, so this is showing the tempo. The first one is eccentric, the second is iso, and then the first one is concentric. And remember what we were talking about with the last one, and this actually goes with the next lesson right there, where eccentric is how far you're going down. So what I was talking about, the squat, when you're going to the bottom of a squat, when you're bringing the bar down is when the muscle is lengthening. Iso is when the muscle is holding itself at the same tension. So it's at the bottom of a squat. Let's say you get stuck for a second. And then the last one is concentric for how quickly you go up. So this is telling you how long to stay into each one of those muscle actions. So you'll be going down for the eccentric part in a 3 count. So 3, 2, 1, you'll get to the bottom of the squat. Then you'll hold it for 2. So at the bottom of the squat, you'll stay down there for 1, 2. Then you'll go up on a 1 count. So you're going to go all the way up in a 1. That's tempo. Supersets, I think, are the bread and butter. Like, I think people don't use that enough, and that's why I believe I've been so successful with clients and people just hit their goals. I think people take too much rest time wholeheartedly, and then the opportunity with supersets is huge because a lot of the times you can do superset different muscles. So if you're working your chest, your back's not tired. So you can superset and go right into a back exercise, and you're not tired from that, and your muscle isn't fatigued. And you can keep that energy going to where you don't even know there's rest time and you can get more of a caloric burn. Giant sets are anything more than just 2. So supersets are 2 exercises put together back to back. Giant sets are like above that, so 2. And then circuits are if you're just going crazy and you're doing like 9-round style. You're doing like different sets of exercises and you're just going like 1 exercise, then 2 exercises, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then you go back to 1 and then go all the way back around. DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. This is a phenomenon. It's funny, phenomenon, but it's one of those things to where, let's say you have a lower body workout one day, and then you're not sore the next day, and you're like, you're fine, but then the second day you can't walk. It's like ridiculous. But that's what happens when your body is just something that your body does to where it delays the amount of time that your body has that soreness, and your body starts trying to heal from everything. So it goes start first like an inflammatory response, so where you're not too super sore yet. But then when your body starts actually recovering, lactic acid has set in, and now it has that metabolic waste. Metabolic waste is just really just like when I talk about oxygen and carbon dioxide and the reactions of how it gets nutrients to your muscles, it gives that energy. There's a waste product with it, and some of that waste product is also called metabolic waste. Um, 1 RM is 1 rep max, so it's how much you could do at one time. Macro, meso, and micro cycles go to the periodization. Periodization. So with macro, it's 1 year. Meso is a month, and then micro is a week. So that's how sometimes we do these different things. It depends on the client or what your goal is. I've seen microcycles very famously recently with when COVID was happening, and we had to do a bunch of mini workouts when people weren't able to see each other in person. Meso was more of how traditionally things are done, and then macro was really just like the whole year goal. Like, okay, we want to make sure that we get you from A to Z, and this is how we're going to do it, and we break it down. And then agonist and antagonist, I kind of broke down. We were talking about chest and back. It's just opposite and opposing muscles. And eccentric, isometric, and concentric, we went over that when we went over to the tempo. And then next is strength training. So this one is always really fun to go over, especially because there's so much information out there on how people should be training, how people should be working out. But this will break it down and give a lot of information. And it's also the OPT model from NASM, or the National Academy of Sports Medicine. That's where this chart comes from. I think is one of the best ones, and it's one of the simplest and easiest to follow. You'll always get results, and then it's very safe. And it breaks down, like I was alluding to, with all of the confusing information that was out there, to where there's a lot of overlap. And you'll see as I go over it. So like with the stabilization and endurance phase, that's normally 12 to 20. But then when you get to the 3 portions of strength, you could go strengthening endurance, you can go hypertrophy, and then you can go maximal strength. But the overlap was like a lot of the strength adaptations or benefits that you can get were also closer to the endurance rep ranges. So people were confused, like, are you doing endurance or are you doing strength? Then you could still get some of the strength adaptations with maximal strength, but maximal strength actually is getting closer to power. That's from physics when it adds in speed versus mass and all that different equations. So NASM was great with being able to break everything down to an easy to comprehend way to be like, look, you're getting these different things, but it's still in the strength phase of it. It's just closer to it to where you can do strength and endurance and get benefits for strength. You can do maximal strength, which is going to lead to power, but you can still get benefits to strength. But it's a perfect building block to get you ready to next go into power. Or if you're starting with the stabilization endurance, now you're able to build up that strength because you build up the endurance and those muscle fibers. So going into it a little bit further, phase 1 with its stability and endurance is usually 12 to 20 reps, and you stay between 50 to 70% of your 1 rep max, because we just went over that a second ago. And then you do 1 to 3 sets and 30 to 60 seconds rest. This is a great rep range and just model to break down everything. But if you're first starting, this is normally where you want to start. It's very important that you don't want to start too heavy, and that you also don't want to do like too much, like 4 to 5 sets, because your body isn't ready for it. So your DOMs will be way too high, and you probably won't even want to keep on working out. Phase 2, going into the strength and endurance phase, they have on here again 12 to 20. Normally, it's really closer to like 15 to 6, because that's when it starts going all the way through, and it gets between like, okay, you're in the middle of the strength and you're in the end where it's closer to endurance. Hypertrophy is when it starts to get that one is not as conflicting as the other ones. 6 to 12 is normally what people think when they're talking about hypertrophy, putting on muscle. And that's what hypertrophy means, is muscle. Or bigger trophy is basically just you're building bigger muscles. Intensity with that one is a little bit higher. So you're going 75 to 85% of your 1 rep max. And then you're doing 3 to 5 sets. So now you added some more stuff in there. Now you're doing more than just 3 sets. And then you have 30 to 60 seconds rest. Continue. So now we're getting into the tail end of the strength phase. So now we're doing max strength. This is the 1 to 5. This is when you're trying to lift as much weight as you possibly can. And it's 85 to 100% of your 1 rep max. So you're lifting some heavy weight here. You're doing 4 to 6 sets of this, really trying to get your muscles to adapt. And nerd moment, but it's very interesting how a lot of the strength adaptations we get is not because we get bigger muscles, but it's because our nervous system is getting more adapt to being able to fire. And it's recruiting more muscles, because the only way our muscles will be able to fire is from the nerve fibers or from the nerve innervations. Nerve moment is over now. But next, with this one, you'll notice that the rest time is a lot higher. You get 3 to 5 minutes rest in between when you're doing maximal strength. This is because with the amount of intensity it is, you're recruiting a lot of muscle fibers, and it takes more time for them to be able to recover. And then also the goal is not to be building a whole bunch of muscle or endurance. It's for you able to lift the most weight at that point in time. And the best way to do that is to give yourself rest and then be able to be at 100% again. And that's usually the time frame it takes. And then phase 5 is power. This is when you're getting to the explosive plyometric stuff where you're trying to either jump super, super high, like doing squat jumps with a barbell, or speed bench and move stuff really, really fast. This is where you're trying to get that maximal moment. These reps are between 1 to 10, but they're very light. So you'll be moving it as fast as possible, but this makes sense if you're familiar with physics, where it's like, okay, the faster something you can go, you have to move it faster, but then you also want to have to worry about how much it weighs. The heavier it is, the slower it's going to be. So if it's lighter, you're able to move it faster, and that is more power. So that's why the training with it is you're able to just really practice on moving something really, really fast. And you can usually move something really, really fast if it's lighter. That's why it's 30 to 45% of your 1 rep max. Then you're doing 3 to 6 sets, and you're resting 1 to 3 minutes. Similar to this maximal strength phase. The only reason why the rest time is longer is because the purpose of this is to move as fast as powerful. To move as fast as possible, as powerfully as possible. So you want to be able to give that rest time to be able to get that adaptation and to keep on doing what you're training for. Lastly is different styles of training. So we went over the program design and all those different things and the nuances of it. But now I wanted to go over like some of the different styles of training that you could do. HIIT training, high intensity interval training, is really good for burning fat really quickly. Calisthenics is body weight. I know a lot of people have done great results with just body weight training. Powerlifting, I have some really, really good friends that do powerlifting where they're just trying to do, like, this is the maximal strength. They're trying to move as heavy as a load as possible and do all, just break world records. Plyometrics will go more into the power training where you're just trying to be as explosive and be able to jump really, really high or fast. And then Russian kettlebell training. So the interesting thing about this one is this one will go more into the endurance phase, but it's probably one of the best forms of exercise you could possibly do. Like Russian kettlebell training has just done wonders. Like I've had some clients have great results with it, and it hits everything in your body. Like honestly, I believe that that is the best version of training there is, and you can just use it with one kettlebell. One heavy kettlebell, you can knock out everything you need to do and replace a whole gym. CrossFit has always been like the most argued about if it's good or not, but honestly, CrossFit has a good place in my heart. Like I've seen people get great results with it. I think it's awesome. As long as it's like coached right and you're not just mashing together a whole bunch of different energy systems, but you're programming them correctly. So you can do CrossFit, but just be careful. Olympic lifting is awesome. This one would be more of why there was such a crossover in the strength phase, is because, as you can see with Olympic lifters, they put on a lot of muscle, but they also move extremely fast. That's just one of the things where, like, when they're doing that crossover, there was a lot of overlap into the styles of training they were doing because they're doing these extremely explosive and powerful lifts that you have to be strong for, and the body was adapting. So they were like, okay, well, how are these Olympic lifters getting absolutely jacked, but then they're able to move stuff so fast? That's when we found out, like, okay, there's a little bit more into this. And then circuit training is just what we talked about earlier, where there's a bunch of different things, kind of like the 9 rounds model, or maybe like you're going outside and doing like a boot camp and you have different sections, but you're just doing a bunch of different exercises and rounds, and then you cycle through and do the same thing again.